Banda Aceh feels the full force of the earthquake as buildings collapse, 20 minutes before the water arrives. It's more powerful than all the world's earthquakes over the past 5 years put together. Halfway across the world in Hawaii, barely a minute after the earthquake, computers at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center spring into life as they pick up on seismic signals. Any earthquake over magnitude 6 prompts an automatic paging sequence to the scientists on duty, alerting them in an instant.
I just fed my cats. I was lying down for a kind of a nap. It had been 3 or 4 days I've been on duty already. I was on the verge of falling asleep when my pager went off. I looked at the pager very briefly. I could tell from the message that I was dealing with something probably larger than a 6, and I was here within about a minute. And Stu Weinstein was already looking at them.
But I noticed that the trace of this seismogram was very full. It appeared as kind of just like one thick line going across the screen, and that told me that it was a substantial earthquake.
The warning center relies on data from a network of seismic stations to detect earthquakes. But their system of coastal tide gauges and deep ocean pressure sensors triggered by tsunamis are located only in the Pacific. Thanks to this system, the center has successfully warned Pacific coastlines against a series of killer waves for over 50 years and saved countless lives. But in the Indian Ocean, there is no such system. When an earthquake occurs under the ocean, its energy can dissipate as shock waves through the crust, or as tsunamis through the ocean.
Whether that shock wave turns into a tsunami, into a water wave, depends on where in the Earth's crust the earthquake takes place. In this case, it took place very near to the surface, the seabed.
This earthquake was only about 30 kilometers deep, which is very, very shallow. If it had been 200, 300 kilometers down, it would not have generated a tsunami.
Seconds after the earthquake, the energy it releases, the equivalent of 23,000 Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs, is instantly transferred to the water column above the ocean floor in a process called tsunami initiation. As the seafloor lifts, it displaces billions of tons of water above it. Geophysicist Tom Heaton of Caltech is an expert on earthquakes.
As a result of the earthquake, part of the ocean floor has been uplifted and part has been dropped down along the fault surface. Because the seafloor changes, so does the water column above the seafloor. So some parts go up here, some parts go down.
Seconds later, the tsunami undergoes its first transformation as the displaced water column splits.
The uplifted area basically collapses and the water rushes away from the uplifted area, creating a tsunami wave that's traveling radially away from the uplifted area. The tsunami wave's now speeding off to some distant shore at 1,000 kilometers per hour.
The main pulse can cover the ocean quite rapidly, which means that in the initial few minutes, the northwest part of Sumatra would have been hit.
Ten minutes after the earthquake. In Sumatra, thousands begin their day, unaware of the approaching wave as it charges towards them at over 600 miles an hour. In the open ocean, tsunamis are virtually undetectable. This simulation, run by oceanographer Simon Boxall, demonstrates how a boat in deep water is only slightly affected. In the open ocean, fishermen may not even notice a tsunami passing underneath their boat. But as it nears land, it rears up into a monster, growing by a process of amplification.
As the wave approaches the land, the front of the wave slows down. It slows down to 400, 300, 200 miles an hour. The back of the wave is still going at 500 miles an hour, and the back of the wave catches up with the front, and you get this big build-up of water.
The amplifying wave can have a curious side effect. Before it hits land, it draws water from its leading edge, exposing the seabed for as much as a mile. It's a phenomenon that would lure thousands to their deaths.
One of the big problems about trying to prevent deaths due to tsunami is trying to stop people rushing down to the beach when the sea goes out. And that happened here. People went down, they saw fish flapping about on the beach, went down to pick them up.
If you see the sea start to go out, you don't stand and wash in awe, you run.
Tsunamis rarely roll towards land like a classic surfer's wave. Instead, they surge forward like an onrushing flood. The leading face builds into a wall of water. They're so deadly because the volume of water behind them is so great.
Tsunami have wavelengths, which is the distance from the crest of one wave to the next wave, of hundreds of kilometers. It will keep coming in maybe for 5 minutes or more, and it has enormous mass behind it.
People see water as being fairly soft, gentle, something fairly benign. But bear in mind that water is very heavy, and a cubic meter of water weighs a ton. So if you've got one of your kitchen units at home full of water coming towards you or falling on top of you, that's a ton of water. That's like having a car land on top of you.
The sort of waves that we've seen in the Indian Ocean tsunami of 2004 are probably able to deliver, for every 1.5 meters of coastline, 100,000 tons of water, which is an extraordinary figure. And that is coming into the coastline, hitting the coastline with incredible force.
And as the tsunami progresses, as it goes through the coast, it's picking up stones, it's picking up debris, like a tornado almost, and that debris, cars, people being thrown at you at 40 miles an hour, that's going to hurt, that's going to kill you.